episode, another update on the Mica Miller case down here in South Carolina. Just wanted to kind of go over a couple things that have come out recently. As far as the case goes, it looks like there's some videos surfacing that kind of gives a little bit more insight on their relationship and kind of how toxic things were between Mica and her estranged husband, Pastor Miller. So we're going to look at this real quick, and so at the top, client refutes any report that suggests he ever abused his wife. But there was a lot of reports made. There's a video footage that came out of some toxic behavior. So we'll take a look at that real quick.
I want to stop here and bring in News Nation's national correspondent, Rich McHugh. He knows a lot about these cases and how to investigate them. You may not know this, but Rich McHugh was Ronan Farrow's producer when they broke the Harvey Weinstein story. Okay, so Rich, the biggest issue has been all along the police reports about Mica saying that she was being harassed by someone repeatedly. Someone had put razors in her tire, a deflation device, a tracking device, had chased her from a gas station to a car dealership, and the name was redacted. And tonight you have information about that redacted name. Who is it?
Well, we're going to show you a piece of video in just a moment, Ashley. First, some context, though, is that you gave some of it. Ashley, we FOIA'd these police documents. There's about a dozen of them. And this one document from March 11th paints a picture. And if we have video of that police document, I want to quote from it. So when we see the actual video, we can make sense of it. In the police document, the police officer writes that he was at East Coast Honda in Myrtle Beach in reference to harassment, that Mica was getting her tire fixed after it was slashed, that she told the officer the tracking device was on her car, that the suspect showed up, quote, she told him to go away, but she does not want to talk. And then when she pulled out her phone to record, he sped off. The victim said he leaves and comes back. That appears to be the moment we're about to show you. Roll the tape if we have it.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours. Walk away.
Now, that moment it's a window into everything that we've kind of been guessing between these two, the struggles that they've been having for the previous 2 years, it sounds like. But in the weeks leading up to her death, there were multiple police reports, and this was one of those contentious days where police were called twice. And this video kind of shows the nature of the relationship in that very moment. Now, it's worth saying, he has not been charged with anything. Police have ruled this a suicide. So this is just context for an extremely troubled relationship, Ashley.
So let's talk real quick about that piece there. So she's calling the police on him because he's showing up, causing trouble. Tires, found some razors in her tires. Tires have been slashed. They redacted his name, obviously, to save face, and kind of him protecting himself from being seen in a negative light, essentially. And so then he shows up out here talking about he's going to, so I mean, narcissistic behavior is crazy. This is crazy. Absolutely nuts. This is coming from somebody who is in charge of a church. Somebody who pastors at a church is doing this type of stuff out here. I'm glad they got video kind of showing some of the toxic behavior that was going on between these two in their relationship. It may be able to shed some light on where her mind was, where her, feeling like she was backed into a corner, essentially. Feeling like she had no other way out, and there was no other way to go. Feeling like that her only way out was to basically kill herself. Because death was better than her current life. There's a lot to the story. There's a lot to unpack. Things keep coming out. They were talking about him grooming her when she was in the church, which is no new thing. Young females get groomed in the church constantly by the older men. I mean, it's a normal occurrence, something that we see often, and something that's not spoken about. Like for me, with my daughter, I'm a protective masculine individual. Protective masculine male. And so if I feel like somebody's grooming my daughter, if there's an older dude that's way out of the age range talking to my daughter, we're going to have a problem. And we're going to handle the problem. Now, some fathers, they just laugh it off because it's at church. So because it's at the church building, they're like, oh, no, it's all good. But you never realize, we have to protect our young ladies. We have to protect our daughters. We have to protect our sons. So we darn sure as men got to protect our daughters from this type of stuff. If she's going to the church and then he cheats on his wife with her later on, then yeah, that would lead you to believe that she was groomed. And so this is all that she knows. This is her life. This is all that she knows. He is all that she knows from a young age. If he's like, a decade and a half older than she is, right? So that tells you about him as a man, where his mindset is. And the crazy thing, and I'm going to talk about this on another episode, is he comes back and has a sermon, right? And people still showing up to the church following this dude. If that don't show you how brainwashed religion is these days, I don't know what will. They still showing up for this guy, knowing what he's done. It's biblical. Well, I can go to Titus 1. Sorry, I said First Titus. There is no First Titus. There's Titus 1. It says in Titus 1 Titus chapter 1 verse 5 through 9. The reason I left you in Crete was to that you might put in order what was left unfinished and appoint elders in every town. Elders, people to lead, as I directed you. An elder must be blameless, faithful to his wife. Well, we're going to say that. Number one, this dude shouldn't be no pastor because he cheated on his wife in the first place. But yet he's still able to be that. In essence, whenever we speak on this verse, I think that a lot of modern Christianity has become accepting of everything. Too much of I feel like people have gotten into the mindset of the Old Testament is bad, the New Covenant love is good. That's the only thing that's good. And I think that when you do that, you open yourself up to things like this, where you have a young woman who is being who is being brainwashed essentially into believing that she is wrong, he is right all the time, and he's probably right all the time, more than likely. To track her, to put her into a mental hospital, and said, those are things that are absolutely nuts, insane to me, right? And then you have footage of this guy, Mr. Pastor Miller, showing up after they had an incident where police were called out, and you could see clearly his actions and how he was acting. He was acting like a child, like he's a little kid. Oh, I'm going to post this up on Facebook, yada, yada, yada. He's coming out there trying to record. I'm glad she recorded it, because honestly, if she didn't record some of these actions, some of these things, we'd probably never known about them, right? But the issue is that this is a form of domestic violence that is rarely talked about. You rarely get in situations where you can speak out about this type of domestic violence. This happens. It's that mental abuse, right? This happens a lot. And you get yourself backed into a corner so far that you don't think there's any way out. And then even, for her, parents or family, there's so much that you don't know that happens behind closed doors, right? That doesn't get let out in the open. And so as we continue to kind of get more things coming out on this case, they were talking about him making her have sex 3, 4, 5 times a day, being pissed off if she didn't. That's abuse, that's super abuse. And for him to be be a leader in a church, there's also a story about a woman who wanted to come to his church, and he told the woman no because she was in a relationship and had moved in with her boyfriend, so she wasn't married, but they had been living together. And so here's this guy who cheated on his wife, who's abusing his current wife, groomed a kiddo, groomed a teeny bopper up while he was the pastor in the church, but he's holding other people accountable to things that he believes, right? And so that just goes to show you the type of control that this man wanted and that this man had. And he used the power of the gospel of God to get it, right? I was telling my buddies earlier today, we were talking about it, and I'm like, just because you go to school and get educated doesn't mean that the wickedness is gone, right? Godliness doesn't come from school. Godliness can only come from God himself. And so unless God has given it to you, then you don't have it, right? And I think that people get that mixed up, get that misconstrued, where they think that because I went to seminary school, that means that I'm godly now. that puts them on a pedestal. No, what it actually does is it just educates you. You get more knowledge of good and evil, essentially. And so people follow these people, and they will follow these people off a damn cliff, right? And so what happens is your God becomes your pastor and not God himself, right? So you only do what the pastor tells you to do, but you don't even have a personal relationship with God. Like if God isn't speaking to you outside of your pastor, then your God is your pastor. You're essentially worshiping your pastor, right? And that's what happens in these churches, where you can have a pastor that does all these things and people will still show up. It's brainwash. It's crazy to me. Like me, I wouldn't show up to this damn church. After this, man, I wouldn't show up. After his sermon where he basically said that it was self-induced, which I don't even know what kind of terminology that is. Oh, my wife killed herself, self-induced. And he's basically bashing her. Well, she had mental health issues and she was dealing with problems and we couldn't get her medication. It was hard to get her medication, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, dude, you drove her nuts, man. She probably wasn't like that the whole time. My man probably drove her absolutely nuts. And she was not like that the whole time. But now all of a sudden, now all of a sudden it's I'm going to make her look bad. He don't even seem like a grieving husband. This dude had a sermon. So he's talking to his congregation. He said that he was trying to bring her back from the dead. I'm like, dude, if you really think that you can bring her back from the dead, then you really do think that you're God himself. Because that's the only person that can bring anybody back from the dead is God himself. So you got this pastor in the church telling his congregation that he thinks or wishes that he could bring her back from the dead. If that don't tell you where this man's mindset is, I don't know what will. I absolutely do not know what will. And I'm going to play it back so you guys can see how this guy was acting out in public. This is nuts to me. Absolutely nuts to me.
To show you, roll the tape if we have it.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours.
And he probably talked about the naked pictures that he posted up online of her. But we're going to talk about that in a second.
Walk away.
Now that moment shows it's a window into
That's toxicity at its best, right? And so you got this dude, hey, I got these pictures, I'm going to post them up on Facebook, threatening to post some pictures. And we probably know what kind of pictures he's talking about, right? All because he messed up. He made a mistake. He did something that he shouldn't have been doing. And so he needs to take responsibility for his own actions here. Most definitely. This is crazy to me. As more updates come in, I will continue to update you guys and let you guys know what I think about some of this craziness. But it's GT Divide Podcast. I'm out.